There are certain moments in life when you realize you've been living in the shadows, invisible to everyone around you, until suddenly you're not. For Shayla Washington, that moment came on a cold December evening in Manhattan, inside the most exclusive restaurant in the city, where power players and dangerous men dined behind velvet curtains and hushed conversations. Shayla had been working at Volkov's for 3 years, serving champagne and caviar to men in tailored suits who never bothered to learn her name. She moved through the dining room like a ghost, pouring wine and clearing plates while conversations about money, territory, and loyalty swirled around her. The owner of the restaurant, Dmitry Volkov, was a man everyone whispered about but no one dared to cross. He sat at the same corner table every Friday night, surrounded by men with cold eyes and expensive watches, conducting business that had nothing to do with the food on their plates. Dmitry Volkov was tall and imposing, with steel blue eyes that could cut through a room and a presence that commanded respect without him ever raising his voice. Shayla had served his table dozens of times, always careful to keep her eyes down and her movements efficient. He never looked at her, not once. To him, she was just another part of the furniture, invisible and insignificant, and that was fine with Shayla. She had learned early in life that being invisible was sometimes the safest place to be. She was saving money to open her own catering business, working double shifts and swallowing her pride when customers treated her like she didn't matter. She told herself that this was temporary, that one day she would walk out of Volkov's and never look back. But everything changed on the night of the restaurant's annual winter gala. The entire place had been transformed into a winter wonderland, with crystal chandeliers casting golden light across white tablecloths and arrangements of red roses that filled the air with their sweet perfume. When one of the other servers called in sick, Shayla was told to cover the VIP section, where Dmitry and his inner circle would be dining. Her supervisor handed her a sleek black dress and told her to make sure everything was perfect. As Shayla changed in the staff room, something inside her whispered that tonight was different. She reached into her locker and pulled out the red silk scarf her grandmother had given her years ago, the one piece of color she owned that made her feel brave and beautiful. On impulse, she draped it around her shoulders, the crimson fabric glowing against her warm brown skin like a flame in the darkness. When Shayla walked into the VIP dining room that night, everything stopped. The conversations paused mid-sentence, glasses froze halfway to lips, and for the first time in 3 years, Dmitry Volkov looked up from his table and saw her. Really saw her. His ice blue eyes locked onto hers, with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat, and for a moment the entire room seemed to hold its breath with her. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the red scarf had stripped away her invisibility and left her standing naked under his gaze. But she didn't look away. Something fierce and defiant rose up inside her, and she met his stare with her own. Chin lifted, spine straight, refusing to shrink back into the shadows. The air between them crackled with something electric and dangerous, something that had nothing to do with the business dealings and power plays that usually filled this room. And in that moment, Shayla knew that her carefully constructed invisibility had shattered, and there was no going back. Block 2. A night painted in red from the moment Shayla entered that room wearing red. The atmosphere shifted in ways she could feel in her bones. The glow from the chandeliers turned every surface golden, and the hum of conversation never truly returned to its normal volume. Her footsteps, delicate but unafraid, echoed on the polished floor as the scent of fresh roses mingled with hints of bourbon and expensive tobacco. The room was an orchestra of glances, whispered words, and the clinking of glasses except, at the VIP table, where silence stretched as thick as smoke. Dmitry Volkov, the Russian boss, with an aura both cold and magnetic, kept his pale blue gaze fixed on her, as if trying to read secrets unraveling from the folds of her red scarf. Each time Shayla poured wine or laid a dish before him, she could sense a question lingering in his eyes, a conflict between the rules of his world and the magnetic pull she now exerted. Her hands didn't tremble, but her heart pounded so loudly, she was sure he could hear it. She remembered what her grandmother used to say. Red is the color of courage and the color danger notices. That night, Shayla felt both stronger and more vulnerable than ever. She noticed subtle changes in Dmitry Tutha, way his jaw clenched when one of his bodyguards addressed her with a dismissive tone, the way his serious expression softened momentarily when their eyes met. As the night unfolded, the boundaries separating their worlds grew thin. With every dish she served, every shy smile she allowed herself to reveal, it became clear something was shifting. It wasn't just about power, or territory, or reputation, it was about being seen, for the first time, as more than a shadow. The air grew thick with anticipation. At one point, Dmitry brushed her hand after accepting a glass of vodka, his touch deliberate, lingering just long enough to ignite a quiet storm inside her. Shayla forced herself to steady her breath, noticing how her pulse raced, her skin tingled, and her confidence blossomed against the backdrop of risk. Later, while clearing a plate, she overheard a tense exchange between Dmitry and another Russian guest. Tatiana, her accent was fierce, her words laced with rivalry and warning. Tatiana's emerald dress shimmered in sharp contrast with Shayla's red scarf, and her eyes held centuries of expectation. "Is this your new interest, Dmitry?" Tatiana sneered, not in English but in Russian. For a second, Shayla felt the sting of being an outsider, Black American woman in this world of sharp edges and subtle codes. Yet, she responded with poise, her shoulders drawn back, gaze unwavering. Dmitry answered Tatiana in Russian, his tone protective, dismissive. Shayla felt a sense of injustice, remembering every time she'd been overlooked, underestimated. Yet tonight, she realized, she was rewriting her place in the story. The rest of the evening unfolded with layers of tension, subtle stares, whispered threats, and fleeting moments of warmth from Dmitry, growing more personal each time their worlds collided. When the evening neared its close, Dmitry stopped Shayla as she served dessert. He spoke softly. "You carry yourself like someone who's lived 1,000 lives. Tell me, what do you see in this room?" Shayla met his gaze, voice steady. "I see a room where no one expects to be surprised. But tonight is different." Dmitry's rare smile sent a wave of something unfamiliar and exhilarating through her. Suddenly, everything's success, failure, loneliness, hope felt as if it had led to this trembling moment on the edge of something new. Before the night ended, news of a business threat arrived. A rival had made a move, and the room's atmosphere grew tense. Dmitry excused himself, but not before pausing next to Shayla. "Life can change in a heartbeat. Don't forget you wore red tonight." Shayla remained rooted in place, heart pounding as if the night had marked her with more than glances. It had given her a taste of courage she never expected to find. If you find yourself captivated by stories where invisible people become unforgettable, consider subscribing to the channel. Shayla's journey is proof that sometimes, all it takes is one act of courage to shift an entire universe, and because every story is shaped by its listeners. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you dare step out of the shadows for just one night? Ever taken a risk that changed how others saw you or how you saw yourself? Tell your story. Your perspective might be the spark that inspires someone else. Block 3. The edge between power and forgiveness. The air in Volkov's glittering dining room was nearly suffocating as the night reached its fever pitch. Between lingering glances and silent calculations, power moved invisibly, like a tide washing against the shore of Shayla's courage. Dmitry's inner circle erupted in arguments after the rival threat appeared. Words exchanged in sharp Russian as tensions escalated, and every face grew taut with anxiety. For Shayla, each sound, the heated voices, distant car horns, the faint clink of crystal wrapped tighter around her nerves. Yet, she sensed something deeper, wasn't just happening to Volkov, but within herself. As the staff gathered nervously by the exit, Shayla noticed the way the world outside had faded into insignificance compared to the storm inside her chest. Her senses were heightened, the scent of roses, nearly overwhelming, the velvet tablecloth beneath her fingertips, reassuring, yet fragile, the golden glow catching the reflection of fear and longing on her warm brown skin. Amid the chaos, Dmitri moved across the dining room, enveloped by an authority that seemed both frightening and profoundly lonely. In a spontaneous gesture, he called Shayla aside, away from prying eyes. "Tonight is not like other nights," he murmured, his voice low but resonant, carrying the weight of abandonment and hope. Dimitri's features softened, his defined jaw, the clear blue ash of his eyes, not just fierce but questioning now. "Why do you wear red?" Shayla paused, meeting his gaze with confidence, rooted in every hardship she had survived. "It's the color I wore the day I realized forgiveness is stronger than fear. Red isn't just courage, it's the courage to start again." Dimitri's eyes grew distant for a moment. Haunted by memories Shayla couldn't name but understood from the raw edge in his tone. "In our world," he replied, "forgiveness is unfamiliar. But maybe it's the strength we all envy." The unsaid pain between them, the injustice each had faced gave Shayla permission to breathe deeply, to claim her space in that room for all the invisible souls watching. The intensity climaxed when news arrived that the rivals' move had failed, thanks in part to plans Dmitri enacted at the last minute. Relief swept through the room, but the mood shifted dramatically, no longer charged by threat but by possibility. Dimitri's men celebrated, yet Shayla saw through the bravado to the human cost beneath these high-stakes games. She approached him one last time, voice gentle and eyes shining. "Are you truly free tonight?" For the first time, Dmitri allowed a smile to touch his lips, not as a mafia boss, but as a man yearning for a new beginning. "With you here, maybe I might be." In that moment, the invisible lines dividing the powerful and powerless dissolved. Shayla smiled back, a smile that carried forgiveness, triumph, and the promise of starting over. As the guests departed and the world outside beckoned with midnight's hush, Shayla lingered by the doorway, watching hope flicker like a candle in the night. This story isn't just about mafia power and American courage, it's about every person who's felt abandoned, every soul aching to overcome the weight of injustice and begin again with forgiveness. Shayla's transformation, in red and resolve, reminds us that life can change in a heartbeat. Sometimes, the most daring act is simply refusing to retreat. Thank you for staying with Shayla's journey till the end. If her story resonated or sparked reflection, join this community by subscribing. It's never just a channel, but a gathering of voices hungry for connection and new chapters. Share your own experiences in the comments below. When did you find the strength to forgive? How did you overcome your fears or injustice? Whether pain or triumph, abandonment or rebetting, your story matters and might inspire someone else seeking a fresh start. Did you enjoy this video, and what lesson did it leave with you?